all your three eyes. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam.
Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvaditam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyaadhilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamajalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatam Trigunarhitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Nithyanam everyone, welcome you all to yet another wonderful Bhava Darshan with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. Today, we're going to be having the Bhava Samadhi Darshan of the Chandrasekhara Murti. This is one of the many forms of Paramashiva, and along with the Bhava Samadhi Darshan, before we enter into the Bhava Samadhi Darshan directly, we're going to be understanding the Leela behind this form of Paramashiva, as well as the powerful cognitions it represents, and how, in our own personal lives, we can apply the powerful cognitions given and transmitted by this Murti. But before we enter into all of this, I'd like to share an exciting and special news from Kailasa. We have two very important news which have been released over the past couple of days. The first one being the truth being revealed by media about the no interpol notice against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. These posts are directly available in the Facebook page, the official handle of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism in Facebook, which states very clearly that the Interpol has never issued any sort of notice on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. In fact, The Interpol themselves recognize the sovereignty of Kailasa nation and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism as the head of the sovereign state of Sri Kailasa. The Interpol has debunked the spat of disinformation in media of any Interpol notice or diffusion against Bhagwan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam in deference to the fact that he is the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and head of the state of the United States of Kailasa. The persecution of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has been recognized by the United Nations, which we're going to be seeing next, international bodies, and multiple countries. After baseless rumors spread about Interpol notices being issued against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, media like the News Minute have revealed the truth of the Interpol notice against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, along with clear evidence of letters directly from Interpol on the same. So as you can see here, there is, if you can scroll down actually on the same Facebook post, you will see the references linking the Interpol, the official letters by Interpol, stating that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has not received, has no notice has been put on the Supreme Hinduism, and that Interpol themselves identify and accept the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, recognize the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. And the next important news which we would like to share with all of you is United Nations recognizing the persecution on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, on the Nithyananda Gurukul, and the persecution which has happened on Kailasa's children and women. A report on the special rapporteur on the sale and the sexual exploitation of children, including child prostitution, child pornography, and other child sexual abuse material on reparation for child victims and survivors of sale and sexual exploitation. The weaponization of sexual violence targeting women and children, especially of minority traditions, is part of a more pervasive and systematic campaign targeting certain indigenous spiritual traditions, minority communities, and their leaders. One such indigenous spiritual tradition currently targeted for extermination by the deep state elements in the Hindu of original indigenous agricultural tribes, which is the AIAT community, led by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagwan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. Kailasa's Nithyananda Gurukul, the traditional residential education system of AIAT, is one of the core components of the AIAT from a tender age to learn the 64 Vidyas, types of knowledge, in a unique method of knowledge transmission. Since the year 2010, deep state elements have forcibly and unlawfully shut down the indigenous Nithyananda Gurukuls, depriving the AIAT children of their fundamental human rights and right to traditional education. Several terrorist attacks continued on the AIAT Gurukul schools and the children to destroy the indigenous education system, ironically by the state bodies responsible for reparation. So if you actually scroll down on this post as well, you can see the direct links to all of these articles, or where the United Nations they themselves have recognized the persecution and have uploaded all these reports on their official website. So both of these links, both of these posts are available on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's official Facebook channel. Both of these posts are featured on the page, so it will be right there at the top. So you can go and view for yourself, as well as all the references and the pictures, images referring to all the information being provided is also linked in this post. You can actually go and look at these and read for yourself, and not share this with the rest of the world. The United Nations, for the first time since the formation of the modern world, United Nations and other international bodies and institutions are now recognizing the Hindu persecution, which has been going on for so many thousands of years. So now with this, we're going to be entering into today's program, into the Bhava Darshan of today. First, we're going to be learning about the grand narrative. Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was born in the holy town of Tirunelveli in South India on January 3rd, 1978. At the tender age of 3, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was initiated into the Bala Sannyas, as the Balasanya, various enlightened masters of Hinduism in the holy town of Tiruvannamalai. Not only that, but the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was identified as an incarnation by enlightened beings and masters such as Yogi Raj Yogananda Puri, Vidwan Panduranganath, as well as the 230th Guru Mahasannidhanam of the Tondai Mandaladinam of the Kanchi Mutt. By the age of 16, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated to revive Kailasa, and the official induction as the successor of Arunachala Sarvanya Peetam has happened and was done to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism by his Guru Mataji Vibhudananda Puri, also lovingly called as Mataji Kuppammal. As you can see here in the photos, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism received the wooden staff, the Kamandalu water pot, and the conch, the traditional items which are handed over, passed down from Guru to disciple, along with the official induction as the successor into the lineage. You can see here the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism standing with Mata Vibhudananda Puri, as well as the official photo of the Pattabhishekam, of the coronation ceremony happening to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Next, we can see here the early days in the mission of Kailasa. When the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was very young, with the guidance of his gurus, the Supreme built the temple monastery complex for his guru, Mataji Vibhudananda Puri, in Tiruvannamalai. This complex was built by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism himself, brick by brick. In the year 2001, on April 14th, at the age of 23, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism established the first Kailasa temple monastery complex in Tiruchendur, South India. As you can see here on the photo in the left-hand side most corner, the bottom left-hand side corner, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism with his own handwriting annotated the photograph documenting and recording the historic moment in the history of Sri Kailasa. The year following that, in November 4, 2002, by the age of 24, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism established the headquarters of the Kailasa Sarvanya Peetam in South India. By the year 2004, at the age of 26, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism conducted mass living enlightenment initiations all across the globe, taking people through powerful cleansing experiences of the 7 energy bodies, 7 chakras in our system. These programs happened in various cities all across the globe, including North America, Canada, and various parts of Europe as well. At the age of 27, in the year 2005, 15th of April, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was welcomed with the proclamation message by the Mayor of St. Louis, Francis G. Slade. Here we can see the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism conducting the mass living enlightenment conventions in various parts of South India as well as all across the globe. We have here glimpses of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism giving the discourse on stress to de-stress in the Oklahoma Baptist Center in the United States. In the years 2015 and 16 respectively, during the Grand Kumbh Mela festival held every 6 years, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism conducted the mass living enlightenment initiation, initiating thousands and thousands of people who gathered for the Kumbh Mela celebration, both in the Nasik Kumbh Mela in 2015 and the Ujjain Kumbh Mela following a year later in 2016. Here we can see the various coronations of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The youngest, the first coronation happened to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism when the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was at the age of 10. Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the 233rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Kanchi Kailas Sarvanya Peetam. In the years following, in the year 2004, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the incumbent emperor of the Suryavamshi Surangi Samrajya of the Suryavamsha lineage. In the following years, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was also coronated as the present 23rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Dharmamukti Swarga Paramadina. In the year 2012, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the present 293rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Kailas Sonata Shyamalapita Sarvanya Peetam. In the year 2013, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the present Mahamandaleshwar, which is the supreme spiritual head of Mahanirvani Akhada, which is the largest apex monastic order. In the years following, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the 1008th Acharya Mahamandaleshwar, which is the head of all spiritual leaders of the Atal Akhada, which is the ancient apex body of Hinduism. In the year 2015, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was elected as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism by a congregation of over 1,000 Hindu leaders, pontiffs. We are now going to understand more about the sovereign state of Sri Kailasa. Kailasa is a macrocosmic, ancient Hindu enlightened civilizational nation whose vision is living enlightenment for all of humanity. Kailasa's mission is to revive and share with today's world the practical applications of the greater sciences of authentic Hinduism, including Hindu cosmic physics, Hindu alchemy, Hindu cosmology, Hindu biology, Hindu mathematics, the power manifestation science, and other sciences as revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. These sciences were once practiced freely in over 56 nations across the continent, but are now facing extinction due to the persecution which has been spread over a millennium. Here we are looking at the 108 different Sri Kailasa initiatives, which are a collection of 108 initiatives to support a variety of humanitarian services, which collectively allow for the creation of an enlightened, peaceful, sustainable, equitable, resilient, and thriving world. One of the 108 projects initiated by Sri Kailasa, which you're going to be looking at right now, is the No Hungry Home project offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for nutritious food and a hunger-free world. Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations, over the past 27 years, have served 1 billion meals. Every month, the Hindu ASMT community has organized more than 3 million annadans, which is the free organic meals served as per the tradition. These annadans were organized and served during the religious gatherings to everyone without discrimination. On normal days, up to 10,000 meals are served daily free of cost, and these numbers go up to 100,000 on festival days. Here we can see Kailasa's protective and preventive COVID care centers offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for affordable healthcare and holistic living. During the pandemic, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism converted his monastery campuses into a multi-layer quarantine facility free for all people, regardless of any difference in age, gender, caste, creed, ethnicity, social economic status, or any other form of discrimination. Not only that, but free food, shelter, medical services, and internet, all of these services were provided free of cost for an indefinite amount of time, as long as devotees continued and to stay there and be in the multi-layered quarantine facilities. More than 20 million citizens across the world of Kailasa followed the 28-day spiritual regimen given by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Here we can see Nithyananda Hindu University and the Nithyananda Gurukul offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for education reform and development. The Nithyananda Hindu University is the world's largest Hindu university established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Nithyananda Hindu University has Nithyananda Indian enrollments, 7,000 free courses, extended campuses in 150 different countries. The Nithyananda Gurukul was inaugurated by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism on the 2nd of October 2006. The Nithyananda Gurukul is the revival of the ancient Adi Shaivite Guru-disciple education system, which is an authentic knowledge transmission system based on the science of living enlightenment. Next, we have the Nithyananda Hindu Jnanalaya project, which is the library and Hinduismpedia offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for the protection of Hindu scriptures. The Nithyananda Hindu Jnanalaya project was established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism to collect 1 million Hindu scriptures while ensuring that knowledge is made accessible and shared free of cost to all. collecting and preserving 1 billion books on Hinduism. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has authored more than 10,000 books in 3 different languages, which have been translated into 50 other different languages, has published more than 10,000 articles, and has given more than 10,000 hours of free discourses with a combined view of 1 billion. Kailasa's Hinduismpedia is a collection of more than 15 terabyte of digital books and rare manuscripts by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism from all the 19 Sarvangapitams, ancient mutts, and ashrams. More than 1 billion pages on Hinduism have been collected, more than 22,000 digital books, 1,000 e-textbooks, and 100,000 articles on various topics of Hinduism. Here we can see the confluence for world peace offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for global peace and religious harmony. In the year 2009, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism organized a month-long peace walk covering 1,000 kilometers and 1,000 villages to bring together the space and feeling connection of oneness and to promote feeling connection among the people. During the walk, health camps were conducted along its path in various villages and other towns in rural areas which went through the peace walk. As you can see here, there are thousands and thousands of devotees going through the peace walk along with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism.
I welcome you all with my love and respect. Let you all open all your 3 eyes.
Yes, sorry for the technical glitch. The next Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations initiative, which we are looking at right now, is for feminine empowerment and gender equality. One of the many offerings and programs which the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has launched for the sake of feminine empowerment and gender equality is Kailasa's Yogini Sarvangapittam, which has established the yoga and meditation universities to empower the quality of life and emphasis on life solutions through Vedas and Agamas, empowering the indigenous rural women, fighting against wrongful gender stereotyping, gender-based violence, and lack of inclusive and quality learning environments. Some of these initiatives includes the Kailasa's Nithyananda Lakshmi project, which is a microfinancing service, Kailasa's Women Foundation and Women Empowerment Self-Help Centers, which have been launched in 108 different places around the world since the year 2009. Kailasa's Ankita program, which is the providing a foundational literacy about the working of basic community services and infrastructural environments, establishments. Kailasa's Ashraya program, providing vocational training programs to rural and indigenous women, provide equal opportunities and access to independent, self-sufficient financial environments to them. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has revived the Vedic feminism in Kailasa, where more than 80% of the leadership positions are occupied by women in Kailasa. Here we're looking at the various offerings and contributions done by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for Yoga, offering the Nithyananda Yoga. One of the many offerings of the Nithyananda Yoga is the Nithyananda Kriyas, which are 108 scientifically derived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, specifically targeting the 108 major diseases and disorders such as diabetes, arthritis, blood pressure, rheumatism, and more. Not only that, but the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has also revived the ancient traditional forms of yoga, such as the Shivastamba Yoga and Rajya Yoga, which is the pole and rope yoga respectively, in which yogic asanas, postures, and weight balancing techniques are performed to create the yogic physiology, aligning it to the cosmic geometry that manifests superconscious powers. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has also received 2 Guinness World Records for the largest rope yoga, which is the Shivastamba, the largest rope yoga, which is the Kundalini Raju yoga, and the largest pole yoga, which is the Shivastamba yoga classes, bringing worldwide attention to these extraordinary forms of yoga. These world records were received by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism on the 30th of September and 3rd of October, respectively. Despite being heavily persecuted continuously for more than a decade, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, in his unwavering intention, commitment, and action in building the only Hindu nation, the sovereign state of Sri Kailasa, to protect, revive, and preserve Hinduism, the most ancient, most peaceful, still living, and long-lasting demonstrable system that shows the possibility of peaceful coexistence amongst people. Here we are looking at one of the most historic moments in the history of Sri Kailasa, where Kailasa, the first nation of Hindus, led by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, spoke on behalf of the 2 billion global Hindu diaspora at the 14th session of the United Nations Forum on Minority Issues. A significant milestone in the history of Hindus and the sovereign state of Sri Kailasa happened on the 2nd of December 2001. His Sri Nithyananda Priyananda, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Kailasa, represented the persecution of Hindus at the 14th section of the United Nations Forum on Minority Issues. The theme of the forum was conflict prevention and the protection of human rights of minorities. This was the first time the plight of persecuted Hindu minorities was represented in the United Nations. The ongoing and systematic generational attacks on Hindu indigenous traditions were highlighted as a part of this meeting. Here we can see the various torture and murder attempts by the state and non-state actors. On the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism alone, more than 70 assassination attempts and physical attacks have happened in India and abroad. 40 attacks on community members, destruction of monasteries and temples, over 60 incidences of rapes, attacks, and molestation of women and women monks, 100 false legal cases, all but one are dismissed. Entire government mechanism, politically owned media, police, and judiciary controlled by politicians, as well as the incitation of mob violence through the social media. These are all just but glimpses of the various attacks and the illegal persecution the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has gone through for more than a decade to prevent the Pontiff of Hinduism from fulfilling his avataric mission. Despite all the illegal attacks and harassments and persecution done on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has established the only Hindu nation, Kailasa, for all of us, for all us Hindus, to practice and live this great Sanatana Hindu Dharma freely without any obstacles. In this next segment, we're going to be learning more about the power manifestation science, which is one of the most important contributions given by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism to the whole world to raise the conscious level of humanity to a super conscious level. In the next segment, we're going to be looking at the Shastra Pramana, which is the scriptural reference for these power manifestation powers, as well as a live demonstration of the power of third eye and consciousness over matter. So stay tuned. We'll be back with you after a short break.
Understand, literally last 39 years from the age of 5, whatever Paramashivam manifested through teaching, speaking, writing, every way, condensing the whole thing and presenting it to you all as experientially. in these 21 days through this Jnana Charya, Jnana Kriya, Jnana Yoga, Jnana Jnana is Mahaparamashivoham. Lifestyle for just Paramashiva. Rituals to be just Paramashiva. Yoga for just being Paramashiva. Jnana just Paramashiva. Paramashivoham is like literally the
Nithyanandam, we welcome all the viewers watching us live on our social media platforms, and we are now going to enter into the beautiful session of understanding what is power manifestation and how power manifestation science can help us in various fields of our life, and how we are going to be manifesting Paramashiva in our life. So now we're going to have a short introduction before going into the demo, where we're going to be seeing various aspects of power manifestation, like how it is useful in our life, and what are the difference between the Shaktis and the Siddhis, and what is the science actually behind manifesting Shaktis. So, in the Vedagamas, the source scriptures of Hinduism, Paramashiva reveals in elaborate detail that every human is hardwired to manifest the 463 plus Shaktis of Paramashiva. Manifesting powers are described in an elaborate, systematic way in the Vedagamas to give humans the opportunity to access the various possibilities and powers and the other states of consciousness which are given in the Vedagamas. Manifesting Shaktis manifest from the fundamental cognition that you are Paramashiva, you are divinity, and not the cognition that you need to reach divinity. So now we're going to be understanding the difference between Shaktis and Siddhis. What is Shaktis and what is Siddhis? Shaktis are the powers that manifest from the space of enlightenment and from the space of Paramashivoham, whereas the Siddhis manifest from tapas or penance. When you do penance, heartful penance, that time the Siddhis manifest. Then there's the Shaktis which are manifesting, which from the source of enlightenment, and only through the direct initiation of the Guru. When the Guru initiates, when the living incarnation initiates, the Shaktis manifest, whereas the Siddhis manifest on the path of enlightenment. The Shaktis of Paramashiva are permanent, whereas the Siddhis are not permanent, they don't stay with you and they divert you from enlightenment. Now we are going to be seeing the various ways the powers are validated and foolproofed in the Vedagamas. So here we have four different methods, four different levels of verification that the powers go through, that this science has gone through for thousands of years now before being given to us. First is the Shastra Pramana. What Paramashiva has directly revealed in the Vedas and Agamas is the Shastra Pramana. Then we have the Apta Pramana, which is the experiences of the various rishis, incarnations, enlightened masters who have come before us from the time of Veda Vyasa till the time of the recent most masters like Maharishi Mahayogi or Paramahamsa Yogananda or Aravindo, or all these great masters, how they manifested so many powers to help people and bring the humanity to the next level. So this is the Apta Pramana. Then we have the Atma Pramana, where
the time-tested and verified experiences of the Supreme Point of Hinduism. After his own research on himself and experiencing those powers, he verifies the experiences and the powers with the Shastra Pramana and the Apta Pramana, and then gives it to us as his Atma Pramana. Then we have the Pratyaksha Pramana, which is the science on the powers. What science is able to derive from these powers, what science is able to understand, and what science is able to say that these powers, how science is able to say that these powers are real. Now we'll be seeing the source of the powers, how these powers actually really manifest. Paramashiva is the primordial divinity in Hinduism, the ultimate reality, cause which is sentient, all pervading, unchanged beyond time, space, form, and causality. As the fundamental base of the manifest and unmanifest, he manifests the five fundamental actions which create this whole cosmos. Then there's a direct quote, the direct teaching from the Supreme Point of Hinduism. The powerful cognition is the ultimate truth about the manifesting Shaktis is when any powerful cognition is mapped into our consciousness, in the sense when a powerful cognition is understood and digested by us, that time it manifests in everyone, through anyone, as the powers of Paramashiva. Now we are going to be seeing the detailed pramanas for each of the detailed scriptural references and other references which give us the details about each of the pramana. So here we have the pramana for the power of third eye. And third eye is not just blindfold reading, but the ultimate and all-powerful energy center that has been given to us by Paramashiva. Here we have the scriptural reference from a scripture called the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, which is a scripture which was directly given to Paramashiva Shakti, Parvati, by Paramashiva. Here in the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, the 34th verse gives us the understanding about third eye. The verse goes, Kapalantar manonyasa tishtan milita lochanaha kramena manaso dhadyat lakshayet lakshyamuttamam. Paramashiva says, by having the mind fixed in the inner space within the crown center and sitting stably without any movement and having the eyes in succession to the third eye, from that space and stability of the mind and the inner space, one attains the vision of the ultimate goal, Lakshyam, and is able to have the vision of any place or object anywhere, and he attains the space of with the source Paramashiva. So here we can see how detailed step-by-step procedure has been detailed out by Paramashiva in this scripture. Next we have the Apta Pramana, which is from the incarnations and various other masters who have come before us. Here we have the Apta Pramana from the Bhagavad Gita, which is the beautiful words of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, giving lots of powerful cognitions to Arjuna, and by giving it to Arjuna, he has given it to the whole world. So in that scripture, Arjuna requests Bhagavan Shri Krishna that Arjuna wanted to see the cosmic form of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, but you cannot see the cosmic form of mine with these physical eyes of yours. Therefore, I grant you the divine vision of the third eye. Behold my cosmic opulence. So this is the direct translation of the 8th verse of the 11th chapter, where Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives Arjuna the initiation into the third eye, and then Arjuna is able to see the cosmic form, and he details it out in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Then we have the Atma Pramana, the experience of the Supreme Point of Hinduism, how he was able to see and how he was able to manifest this experience. So he says in his own words that The first experience I had, I was able to see everything around me, above me, below me, the whole 360 degrees. And not only I was able to see, I was able to feel everything that was around me. So this is the direct words of the Supreme Point of Hinduism, and we can see how it is directly matching with the Shastra Pramana. Now we have the Pratyaksha Pramana, which is the scientific study on the powers. What science has understood and discovered from this power manifestation. So they have done a direct study on the Supreme Point of Hinduism, and when they did that, they were able to see high amount of energy being radiated from the frontal lobe, in the middle of the frontal lobe, which is the point where the third eye is. And the same readings have been replicated by various balasans and yogis who have manifested the same power after the initiation of the Supreme Point of Hinduism. Now we are going to be seeing the pramana for a power that manifests from the space of the third eye, which is the power of consciousness over matter. So here we have the scriptural reference, which is from the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, Sutra 120, Dharana 95. Kvachid vastuni vinyasya shaneshtim nivartaye